Hello there, and welcome to Three Spoonies. We're your hosts, Karen, Jo, and Claire. This is episode number 42, and we're discussing insurance when you're already ill. Join us as we dive in.
Are you drowning in admin? Struggling to keep up with emails, invoices, social media, or the endless to-do list that comes with running a business? Then it's time to call in Vicky Admin Fairy, an award-winning virtual assistant who brings order to admin chaos. Vicky works with all entrepreneurs, regardless of their background or abilities, to take care of the time-consuming tasks that slow you down. Whether it's managing emails, sorting financial admin, handling social media, chasing late payments, the list is endless. She saves business owners hours every week, reducing stress and ensuring everything runs smoothly. With 25 years of experience, a flexible, client-focused approach, and a reputation for going above and beyond, Vicky adapts to your needs, making your business more efficient so you can focus on what you do best. And the best part? You'll have more free time to grow your business, boost profits, or just enjoy life without admin headaches. Want to free up your time and get your business running more smoothly? Visit www.vickyadminfairy.co.uk or email hello@vickyadminfairy.co.uk to find out how Vicky can help you.
Hi, I'm Karen from Pony Pony Pony.
I'm Jo from Bright Cat Business Solutions.
And I'm Claire, and I'm the Spoonie that's taking a break from business at the moment.
And together we are three spoonies navigating our way through life and business with not enough spoons. Not enough spoons and not enough ice in all the world, because it is unseasonably warm today. By the time it comes out, it will probably be cold and we'll be moaning it's too cold, but it's the great circle of life, I feel. Anywho, we are joined today by our lovely and splendid guest, Sarah Gashi. Hello.
Hi guys. Happy to be here.
Oh, well, thank you very much for joining us. Would you like to tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yes, my name is Sarah Gashi and I'm an independent insurance advisor and broker. Basically, I look after people's life insurance and illness cover, hospitalization cover, and private medical insurance.
Marvellousness. And thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have your expertise because obviously it's an area where you don't just want to make it up.
Yes, I did have to pass a few exams to be able to advise people on what they should do with their insurances. Making it up is strongly discouraged.
Yes, and mildly terrifying, I'd imagine.
Yes, I am usually in particular looking to help anyone who's been maybe putting off looking at their insurances. A lot of people worry that it might be terribly boring, or often are worried about being patronized or even about being swindled. So I just really pride myself on talking in plain English, and I'm not the face of the insurance company, so quite the opposite. So I represent the customer, and my job is to get the most out of the insurer on the customer's behalf.
Perfect.
We like that kind of saviour.
He really
Right,
does
I'm
as well.
Yes, yeah, it's a different emphasis and also very reassuring because I don't often know what half the terms mean. You know, when you look at stuff online, it's like, okay, that's probably good.
Yeah, completely. I think it's really shocking how we don't learn about any of this type of stuff in school, but we really don't. Like the financial education in schools is basically non-existent. It's not just insurance. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't learn anything about even, I don't know, mortgages or taxes or voting or like any, there's those things that you need to be like a
Adulting.
functioning adult. Yeah, exactly. To
Yeah,
be like a
adulting.
citizen of absolutely none of that. I did, of course, learn trigonometry and quadratic equations because that's what I needed to know by the time I left school.
Well, Sokotoa is all I can say to that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if young people are lucky, sometimes you get a bank that comes in and does an hour, which, is better than nothing, don't get me wrong, but doesn't necessarily set you up for life. Right, I'm going to whoosh over to Joe, who's going to ask some questions. Whoosh!
Whoosh! Yeah, so thank you, Sarah, for joining us. We slightly touched on this subject back in season 1, and I can't even tell you which episode it was, but we decided at that point we needed an expert to come along and advise us on this because we have no idea.
Oh,
I mean,
it was holidays and travel, I think.
it might have been holidays and trouble. So yeah, well done for remembering, Karen. I just remember it was season 1. That's it. But yeah, we thought of you straight away because you're our go-to person for such things, and we know you know your stuff. So the name of the episode is Insurance When You're Already Ill. But shall we start with, is there a difference of your approach from someone who's coming to you perfectly healthy, clean slate in business, and someone like us who's got a chronic illness or some sort of disease?
Honestly, either way, my job is to search the whole of the market and find the best possible policy for the individual customer, which includes any medical disclosures there might be, or other things like sometimes people have, they like to ride motorbikes or have some other mad hobby or spend a lot of time abroad or have a dangerous job. So it's not just medical conditions, like every customer has a few individual things that will need to be taken into account and which some insurers might be a bit harsh towards, either with applying exclusions or increasing the price, but other insurers might be a lot more lenient towards. So my job is to know that, if someone's suffering with fibromyalgia, then this insurance company would be best. Whereas if somebody likes to go scuba diving, then this other insurer would be best for them. So it's actually the same process with any customer to just find out what the details are and use that information to find out which insurer and which policy will be the most suited and on the best possible rate and have the fewest exclusions.
Good to know, because we did not know that. Have you ever come across something that can't be insured?
Yes. Everyone, pretty much everyone can get some insurance, but sometimes people want specific insurances that they cannot get, and I will have to recommend a kind of next best option. So often for people that are in the midst of a serious medical condition, let's say, for example, they have a cancer that they are still in the middle of undergoing treatment for, something like that, then it's very unlikely they would be able to get medically underwritten cover, which is cover where you have to make a medical declaration to get it and answer lots of questions about your health. But policies which are not medically underwritten exist, and these can be taken out by anybody. Some of them you have to be a certain age to get, others there isn't that age requirement. So often this type of policy is something that somebody could fall back on. So in that example of somebody that's currently undergoing treatment for a cancer, if they would ideally like to have critical illness cover, they may be able to get it again in future when their treatment is complete. Unfortunately, they probably will not be able to get it when they're literally in the midst of treatment, but they can, in lieu of that, in the meantime, straight away take an accident and injury and hospitalization cover that will cover them immediately. And will at least provide some cover. They could claim for being hospitalized, even though they can't claim a much larger and more glamorous critical illness cover payout because they are already critically ill.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And yeah, it's like just a worrying of like, is there anything they look at and go, oh hell no? But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when we were getting our mortgage, we had to, well, have at least one of us that had life insurance. And my husband's now got life insurance. I do not, because they looked at me when no. And that was before I was really chronically ill. Which I always funny.
When you look at life, I know when I was going through my stage of I'd had to stop my life insurance for a bit because of financial priorities, and I was like, that can go on the back burner. And when you go start looking at it, some of the when you put your illnesses in are so expensive because you have an illness, and that's a bit of a minefield. Then I found Sarah and obviously went to her, and she done all the hard work for me.
What's a good plan?
Oh, it really was.
I mean, it can be really demoralizing because as a customer who's living with an illness, the only real way you have to find insurance for yourself is to go to an insurer, like pick an insurer, any insurer, apply, which involves answering all of these detailed questions about the illness or whatever it may be, and then find out at the end what the result of that is. And if it's not satisfactory, just contact the next insurer and do it all over again. And that can be very long, very depressing, and also just very repetitive and boring. So it's because so anyone that does the job that I do makes these applications all day, every day for lots and lots of customers, and will just have a general sense of, as I say, so it will be best to apply for this insurer if you have this condition, or that insurer if you have that condition, which can make it a lot shorter and less boring, and mean that you only have to answer the questions once, which is
Yeah, that was
much
really
nicer.
nice.
Mhm.
I really appreciated that.
So, as far as different types of insurance go, is there anything you would absolutely recommend everybody should have?
So anyone who is self-employed and would not get any form of sick pay if they were too sick to work should try to obtain some cover that would provide them with sick pay if they're too sick to work. Obviously, this doesn't apply to everybody. You know, some lucky people, I know they work for the NHS, let's say, and they get 6 months full pay, 6 months half pay if they're off sick, you know, really generous sick pay, that sort of thing.
I
So
really
if you're
appreciated that when I worked for the NHS.
yeah, so there we go. So if you're sitting pretty on that kind of employer sick pay, then having private sick pay is less urgent for you, obviously. But for many of us, obviously that's not the case, and we would have nothing to fall back on at all. And then often people who maybe don't have much in the way of savings, which often, unfortunately, it's people who may sometimes feel that they can't afford insurance, but in reality, scarily, maybe can't afford to not have insurance because of the consequences of sickness or death when there is no sick pay and no savings to fall back on. It would be much more catastrophic. So the importance of having insurance in that scenario is more than if you are the lucky NHS person with your 6 months full pay, sick pay.
Good to know. So if someone is already ill and they've gone, all right, so I'm starting a business, and you know, as most of us seem to do, to fall into it because we can't really do anything else. And they've gone, oh, I should probably have insurance, but I'm not going to get insurance. What are the steps they really need to take, other than talking to just go straight to you? I would recommend that, but you know.
I mean, although it doesn't have to be me individually, I really do recommend to speak to an insurance advisor. It should be free. So the vast majority of insurance advisors, myself included, do not charge the customer fees. They shouldn't. If you come across one that is charging, they're being cheeky, and I would just move on to the next, to be honest. Which is because we do, of course, get paid, but I, like most advisors, take 100% of my fees from the various insurance companies and none of it from the customers, which means that there really is no downside to the customer, for the customer, to speaking with an insurance advisor. It's just completely free advice and expertise. It's likely that the policy you end up with at the end will be better suited on a better rate and have fewer exclusions. And this process is literally free. It'll be less time consuming for you to find a policy as well, because you just answer the advisor's questions once, as I was saying, instead of answering each insurer's questions over and over again until you get lucky, basically.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Have you ever, I'm going to throw a random one out there, have you ever had someone wanted basically the moon on a stick and you just like, I can't give you that?
Yes, definitely. Sometimes I've had people ask for a quote, and I've done what I always do and looked with every insurer and found the best prices and said, oh, for you the best possible price would be this, and they've just asked if it could be half that. No, I've
like-
already looked everywhere. This is the best price. I've already done that part. But I appreciate the, don't ask, don't get kind of mentality. Like, you might as well ask. You never know. But unfortunately, in this case, I will already have checked. This is already the best price. Sorry.
So it's not like, well, yeah, I can, but that's going to get you half the cover. Do you
Well,
really?
yeah. Yes.
Fabulous. It's all very interesting. Ladies, do you have any questions while I try and get my brain to work?
Yeah, what do you do if you've not been diagnosed with something yet? Like, is there a box to tick if you might have something, or do you just add it later when it's official?
So with medically underwritten insurance, the type of insurance where you do answer medical questions to get the policy, if a customer is awaiting an appointment or a referral or a review or something, or has any symptoms for which that they're already suffering these symptoms, but for which they have not yet sought medical advice, any provider will typically postpone until the potential customer has seen a doctor at least for the first time about the thing. And ideally, every customer will get the best terms once a diagnosis has been made, almost like regardless of what the diagnosis is. So having something that you don't know what it is kind of the worst possible thing in the eyes of the insurance company, because as far as the insurance company is concerned, it could be absolutely anything. I mean, goodness knows what it could possibly be. One very common one is customers who have gut problems, who are just suffering with some gut symptoms. If they are able to get a doctor to say, oh, it'll be IBS, IBS will not affect the vast majority of insurance policies. It's really common. Loads of people have IBS. It's not a problem. So going to the doctor, getting an IBS diagnosis and telling your insurer that I have IBS, great, fine, not a problem. Here is your insurance policy that you requested. Whereas saying I have gut problems and I have no idea what they are is going to massively raise the alarm bells for the insurer. It will be much better to know that it was IBS. So I would say if you're in a position that you would like to get insurance, but you have a sort of niggling symptom that's been bothering you for a while and you've been thinking you should see the doctor about it, actually just see the doctor as quickly as possible. Get it, noted on the medical records that it was this or it was that, whatever it may be. And then it's highly likely it'll be easier to get an insurance policy and a better insurance policy than if you didn't know yet what it was.
For someone like me who's been waiting for 2.5 years for a referral would be a nightmare.
Unfortunately, that is just about the most tricky possible scenario, because the insurer will just want to wait for the referral.
Yeah.
There are a couple of little tricks and hacks for this. So it depends what it is, but providers that offer insurance on a guaranteed acceptance basis, some of these providers have what we call soft benefits, like just a few extra things that policyholders can access. And often one of those things is virtual GP appointments. So you can take a policy for which there are no medical questions and you're guaranteed to be able to take the policy. And then you can use that policy to get a virtual GP appointment, which would be like a video call or a phone call with a GP. They will be a UK registered GP, but obviously might be anywhere in the country, could be up in Aberdeen or down in Cornwall or whatever. So usually it's not possible to see them in person, or not realistic or feasible to see them in person. But they're able to make referrals, write prescriptions, and a number of other doctor functions. So depending on what it is, it can be really helpful. Obviously, if it's like, I don't know, if it's like a sort of suspicious cough or breathing problem that they're going to have to listen to your lungs, then it just can't be done virtually, unfortunately. But a lot of things can.
Good to know.
It is good to know, and it's also good to know about other lovely things out there you might like. So let's take a quick break for Spoons Full of Loveliness.
At Watmore & Co Accounting, we provide accessible first accounting, helping without jargon or judgment. We proudly support SME businesses with a particular focus on those led by neurodivergent, disabled, or otherwise marginalised individuals. Our clients trust us to deliver clarity, consistency, and compassion in every service, from end-of-year accounts to tax planning and bookkeeping. As one client shared, Lawrence made it painless. They get it. No need to explain. Schedule your free consultation today on our website. Visit watmoreandco.com today. Watmore & Co. Accounting that understands your business and your needs.
Hello and welcome back. And we're talking to Sarah Gashi about insurance when you're already ill, which has been quite interesting so far. Oh, there it goes. There's that question.
That
As you
question
know,
went right out the window, didn't it?
it did. It's like, I've got a question, I've got a question. No. The only problem with trying to hold on to a question when you've got one is brain fog is bad. It doesn't like to hold on to things. And it goes, no, I don't want that. I did. I was using that. How did you get into all the insurance things and all the exams you had to pass? What's your journey to it? While I try and remember what I was thinking about.
So back in 2016, I was working for an entirely unrelated, possibly borderline pyramid scheme. But this is my last job before I got into this. What should I and should I not say about this place? Basically, I ended up getting fired from the pyramid scheme for asking too many questions.
The triangular shaped self-improvement scheme.
Yes. Let's. So I found myself without a job and needing to find a job very quickly. And I took the first job I could find the following morning, literally, which was cold calling to sell life insurance in a call centre in Nottingham. And I was thinking this will just be like a stopgap between now and the next thing, honestly. And then I just unexpectedly absolutely loved it. It was really fun, like the buzz and the energy in the call center. Obviously there was a bit of people saying, "How did you get this number?" and "Get a real job," and getting yelled at on the phone. So it's character building for sure. Cold calling. But there's a surprising number of people who were very receptive and really just wanted to talk to a human about it instead of having to try to do insurance things without speaking to a human at all. And then that call center, I'd already worked there for a couple of years, was really enjoying that job as it was anyway. That call center was actually bought by a large financial services company, and that place subsidized the training and the cost of the exams for any employees who wanted to become qualified to give insurance advice. So before that point, we had been arranging policies for people, but on a non-advised basis, in that we would just provide a buffet of options and then the customer chooses whatever they would like to choose, and we don't make any comment and we don't have any opinion on whatever they've chosen, basically. But then after I had passed these exams, I was allowed to advise customers and let them know that, this policy is better than this one for these reasons, etc. And that really just elevated my overall experience of the job. It was, for a while, I had known which policies were better. I just wasn't allowed to say that I knew that. And then having passed these exams, I was suddenly allowed to tell these customers who are actively asking, they're saying, well, which one do you think I should choose? And to be able to say, this one, I know it's £2 more than that other one, but for the sake of £2, you're getting this and this extra benefit, this much more cover, and it's a better rated policy. But so that just, I know, it made my job really satisfying to do, and I could feel that it enables me to help people much more than I could help them before.
Fabulous. And do you still work with the same company? Or are you
no,
fully on your own?
I am independent now. So during the pandemic, we were all working from home, and I basically realized that I could end to end do my job working from home. And although I'm deeply grateful to my former employer for subsidizing that training and training me how to do my job in the first place. But the experience of being sat at home doing my job entirely on my own during the pandemic made me realize that I had outgrown my employer, basically, and that I no longer no longer needed to have, the admin or the, whatever was done previously. So yeah, I decided to do it on my own.
And from what I've heard, you do it very well, and I'm quite busy because we've been trying to get you for this for a while.
Sorry, guys.
We
I did
people are busy.
I did especially want to come and join you guys for an episode because I notice that often people with health issues are mistakenly under the impression that they can't get cover when actually they can. And often I speak to people who have been declined by an insurer, and that's made them assume that they would be rejected by other insurers when that's often not the case either. It was just a sort of unlucky choice the first time, the first insurer that they tried. So I just really want to kind of get the message out there that it's worth seeking advice because it's free. It's worth having somebody explore all of the options for you, because it's very unlikely that nowhere will cover you. There are specialist insurers for almost anything. There's guaranteed acceptance cover for several types of cover. And I just really don't want people thinking that they're uninsurable when that's not the case.
Especially as it could be there when you absolutely need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, although I obviously work with men and women, and most often with families, I also particularly really want to help women obtain the insurance that they need, because women are still now severely underinsured compared to men. Women are less likely to have cover at all. Women who do have cover have, on average, significantly less cover compared to their husbands, but also compared to their male colleagues in the same job. Men are more likely to receive cover for free through their employer, which is to do with the types of jobs or industries that men are more likely to be in, and the fact that men are more likely to be full-time employed. But the strangest part about all this is that while men are more likely to have cover, women are more likely to need it, because women suffer critical illnesses and chronic illnesses much earlier and younger than men do, typically. So whilst men are most likely to need time off work sick in their 50s and 60s, for women, 50% of sick pay claims were before the age of 40. So like half of women claiming younger than 40, obviously half older than 40. I think that in this space, so a lot of people who have chronic illnesses, that's the reason that they are self-employed and that they work from home. And this is more often women than men. And I think it's just part of the problem of women being underinsured overall.
Yeah, that's really interesting. From what we've seen, this is usually why women are self-employed. It's not to work around children, it's to work around their own health. Whereas men tend to just work until they keel over later.
I know when we done mine, it was because I'd got to the stage as I was looking around at other companies and stuff, and I found it really overwhelming. And because I had to make sure it was covered in the right way, because of my son Dylan being autistic, it was, and my sister being his legal guardian, it was I found it really confusing. And it was like, I need to get it all done the right way. And Sarah was just like, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can put this into this. And I'm like, I wouldn't have known any of that. Just like, sent paperwork to my sister for her to sign, to just like agree to her parts of looking after like the money for Dylan and stuff. And it was just like, oh, didn't even know that I could do that. I thought it was just, I thought put all in a will, that'd be fine. And it was like, oh no, okay, this is all different. So it is a minefield out there, and it was nice to have someone that could just explain it all to me.
It can definitely feel like a minefield, and I think goes back to what we were saying about schools not preparing people for this sort of thing at all. It's not actually that complicated, but it's completely unfamiliar. And until you know, you don't know. Anyone that takes a life insurance policy can and should write it into trust, which should also be a free service, by the way. This is just where you specify who you would like the money to go to if you did pass away. If the money is to be for a child, you can choose a trustee, just like a trusted adult who will take care of arrangements, and then also choose the child as the beneficiary. So the trustee doesn't have to receive the money themselves. So in a situation where the money is for your children, but your children are still children, or there are any other reasons why it might not be appropriate for that child to be taking care of the administration of this themselves, you can name someone like in your case, your sister was the perfect person for you to choose, who would take care of arrangements if that did come to pass.
Yeah, no, it was definitely handy.
This conversation very much reminds me of the type of conversations I have with my husband, who works for the Office of the Public Guardian, and he deals with lasting powers of attorney, which also nobody knows how to navigate or that they even need to half the time. So yeah, we're really not taught how to deal with any of this.
We're just not taught how to add. Well, I don't know if it's changed now, but we weren't taught adulting as such. You know, we weren't taught about paying rent, bills, the council tax, all of that crap, and it's one of the most important things in life.
Well, there used to be some of it in general studies, but they got rid of it because snobbery. So
they basically didn't want us to know how crap life could be as an adult. Don't tell them, they'll want to grow up faster.
No, I think it's also part of it is that although it is possible to self-educate, as in, by Googling or whatever, but that's actually quite difficult to do because, especially in insurance, I mean, if you do that, you find yourself wading through reams of insurance jargon that's not really written with customers in mind and isn't even intended to be easy to understand, basically. I think that customers absolutely can beat the system, but they just need information to help them make decisions that's going to work for them, and insurance that is going to protect them and their family from the financial consequences of illness or of death.
I think there's like a lot of, because it has to be written in sort of legalese, because that's how policies are written and things like that, that your average person doesn't know how to navigate it. I mean, and go back to the LPAs. I mean, apparently, if you can read it, it's really, really easy to navigate, because it's fairly simple. But if you can't, it's a minefield. And our actual next guest on this podcast is the person who did ours. She's a solicitor, but that's not what she's going to talk to us about, which is great. But yeah, I'd imagine insurance is the same thing. Of you might get a breakdown of what it is, but do you actually understand what it's saying? And I think we're going to someone like you, Sarah, would like to, what does this mean in like real terms? Because a lot there's big numbers, there's jargon, there's stuff like that. Yeah. Ladies, have you got any final questions for Sarah?
Yes. Weird stuff. So some people might have weird stuff for their job or for their disability. So, if someone, for instance, has an IKEA alchemy lab of acids and blowtorches and a kiln, which apparently insurance counts as an explosive device in their house. They've also got an oxygen tank so they can breathe, which can explode, and maybe a lift in their house, which could be a risk. Although I can assure you that emergency stop brake on the lifts are very, very secure. Don't ask me how I know that, but yes, they are. But all of these things could be a risk. What sort of things should you be declaring on your insurance?
Is all of this asking for a friend? Yeah.
I think some of it could be relevant, yes.
In general, when a customer applies for insurance, there'll be a questionnaire to answer. The insurer is trusting the customer to answer these questions in good faith. The insurer asks about what they need to know about. So you, the customer, shouldn't be doing any cheeky dancing around the thing thinking, oh, well, they phrased it exactly like this, so maybe I can get away with not saying that. None of that. But if they don't ask about something at all, that's because they don't need to know. So I do, of course, I find, especially when doing medical questionnaires, that there's a real range of what people think they need to disclose. I had one crazy experience once where the customer didn't disclose any conditions at all, and the insurance company did a random spot check and wrote to her GP to ask for a little overall summary of her medical history. And the information sent by the GP revealed that she had previously had a cancer. And of course, I phoned her and said, what's this? You didn't tell me about this. And she said, oh, but it's only cervical cancer. That doesn't count. Thought,
That's
what?
on you. It's like...
And she said basically she just had to have some cancerous cells removed, and there was very little follow-up treatment required, and she was discharged from further review very quickly. To which obviously I said, I'm very glad to hear that you were not that sick with it, but that wasn't the question. The question was, have you ever had a cancer? To which I feel we should all be able to easily agree that the answer was unfortunately yes. But the funny thing about that actually was that if she had said yes, because it was quite some time ago and because it was not very severe at all, it wouldn't have prevented her from getting the cover. But because she lied, the insurer exercised their right to cancel her cover, void her policy, and refuse to cover her. So it would definitely have been better to be honest. It would always be better to be honest. But then on the flip side of that, there's always customers that are very keen to disclose that they banged their elbow last Tuesday and had a spot on their face, and in last October they had a tummy ache and whatever else. So I'd say, as a customer, you don't need to worry about trying to work out what you should or shouldn't disclose, because the insurer has a whole team of people that have worked out exactly what they do and do not need to hear from you, the customer. And they've designed these questions very carefully to make sure they find out everything they need to know and don't unnecessarily waste your time finding out things that they do not need to know. So trust the questionnaire. Just answer the questions as they are, honestly, and all will be well.
Awesome, thank you. I am going to whoosh back to Karen to close this out and do all the magical things she does. And a whoosh.
Yep, thank you, Sarah, for joining us. I've definitely learnt some things today, and I'm sure other people will have as well. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about? Anything you'd like to plug, a preferred way for people to contact you, or anything else that's occurring for you?
There's nothing I need to plug at the moment. I have very recently received through my trademark registration for what's going to be my new business name. Same business, but new name. But until I have completed a little more paperwork about that, I can't yet tell you what it is. So I will come back around and let you know in due course. Watch this space. In the meantime, you can find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. My name is Sarah Gashi, Gashi, unusual surname, so I'm very easy to find. Or you can email me on sarah@pure, that's PURE-protection.co.uk. We can set up a lovely phone call chat and I will be happy to speak with you.
And as we assume that all that lovely trademark and everything will be in place by the time this episode goes out, everything on the website and in our show notes will be updated. So they'll all be up to date and you can go see your stalker.
Thank you so much, Jo.
You can just Google it.
Well, thank you for joining us for 3 Spoonies on insurance when you're already ill. It is ill, not 111 or the 3rd, depending on which font you're reading it in. We'd love to know your thoughts in the comments, particularly if it's on the font. Don't forget to subscribe for our weekly podcast and leave us a review. You can also buy us a coffee if you like what you do. Please make mine an iced coffee if I can make requests, because I am sweltering at the moment. All the links, as ever, will be in in the show notes. Thank you for being here. You can find us on all the socials except Twitter because it sucks. Have a great day and keep track of your spoons.